Well, good evening and welcome to this live stream on the 24th of September 2024. Martin North here from Digital Finance Analytics. Great to have you on the show tonight. Thanks very much for spending some of your Tuesday evening with us. This will be a really interesting conversation about buildings and what goes wrong. And as somebody says in the chat, it isn't just old buildings. New buildings also have quite a few issues too. So we're going to touch on some of those as well. Just before I bring Edwin in, let me just remind you, as I always do, we don't provide specific property or financial or legal advice. This is the general conversation only. We moderate the chat, but feel free to throw your comments and questions in. And if you'd like to get your question top of the list, you can use that Walk the World. And that will help to see it, and also enable Super Chat. So if you want to make sure it gets top of the list, you can use Super Chat to do that, or indeed make a contribution to what we do around here. We don't do this for profit, we do this because it's a really important conversation, particularly now. So with that done, let me bring Edwin in. And Edwin, nice to see you back 2 days in a row.
Hello, Martin. We got to stop meeting like this. Your girlfriend, Nerida Kanisby, is going to get very jealous.
Oh, dude, don't go on about that. Yeah. So, look, there's so much to talk about, but I thought it would be good to have a specific conversation about the issues around buildings. And I guess a place I thought I might want to go to start would be to remind everybody that a building is a big machine. A building is a construct that has thousands and thousands of things, all connected to other things, all of which need to work reasonably well for it to work. And unfortunately, when you listen to people talking about property, they forget that property is a machine. And like any machine, things can go wrong. And of course, if you are buying a property, you can sometimes find that you've bought a lemon because there was stuff wrong with it. So what we're going to do today is to spend a bit of time chatting about this. But when you talk to your clients, Edwin, how many of them actually sort of know about and understand the idea of the quality of the building?
I would say there's a percentage, 50% would have a fair idea. Most don't, unfortunately, and that is one of the reasons why they engage us, because they want to make sure that they themselves don't buy a lemon, and apart from the obvious reason where they also want to have somebody like us on their side, because we understand what goes on in the background. Which is very, very important. I like your analogy of a machine, Martin. You could also say that a building is also organic, and it's conceived in the plans and the drawings, or conceived in somebody's idea, and the architect's idea, or a developer's idea. Then goes through planning and drawing, and then obviously it starts to get formed. So it's organic, and it comes out of the ground, from your basements to your transfer slab, and then away she goes. And being organic, like a machine, there's a lot of wear and tear, and this is where people don't understand. And also you could say being organic, the life of an organism could start with inherent deficiencies or faults in the body structure. Likewise with buildings, if the foundations aren't set right, well then your building, the end result's going to be it's going to die or decay or wear away a lot quicker. So both from as an organic piece of structure as well as a machine, it's quite interesting, because when you start looking at it in that way, then you're able to see that it's not just bricks and mortar. There are a lot of functioning parts that have got to stay together and got to gel and glue, and more to the point where you've got a lot of these high-rise developments or medium density developments, your 6-level 4-level or 6-level mixed-use developments that the governments are throwing at us, calling them homes. When in actual fact there are the strata blocks, strata units, apartments, and there's a lot more moving parts in these. Obviously, the mechanical ventilations, you've also got your water and sewer and sewerage. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot more that can go wrong in strata complexes than in a freestanding house.
Yeah, and of course you quite often have obligations of those responsible for the building, and if you're living in part of the building but you don't have responsibility directly but only indirectly for the other parts, you still need to take account of the fact that, well, if your car park's down in the basement, or what about the common parts? They also have the same issues potentially and therefore need to be looked after too. I showed that slide, I'll put it back up again. I thought this was quite a good one because it shows you the point that, as you say, it comes out of the ground, so you need to think about the foundations and how it was excavated, and then how the spaces were filled in and how the footings were done. And then, of course, you've got things like the walls and the building exterior, however those are actually put together. You've got significant issues around waterproofing to keep the water out. You've got the framing and the construction of the internal frames, whether that's for walls or whether it's for the ceilings and the joists. You've got the various utilities, so the water and the gas and the electricity, the heating system, the cooling system, all of those sorts of things. And maybe you've even got solar panels on the roof. So it's a complex situation. And just to sort of develop that complexity a little bit further, if you take the roof, for example, and you start thinking about the things that actually go to make a roof, you've got flashings and you've got rain gutters and you've got how the edges are developed. Is it a hip or is it not? Is it a ridge? Is it a valley? Chimney flashing, all of those things, fascia boards, the eaves, the soffits, all of those, and the way the water rain goods works and the downspouts and all those things. These are all things that people need to think about. And, I worked as a building surveyor for a good number of years, looked at thousands and thousands and thousands of properties as I worked through that particular career. And it was fascinating to me that, almost no two buildings were exactly the same. But you started to see patterns in terms of some of the defects and some of the defaults, some of the faults that effectively come up. And some of those faults were inbuilt on day one because they were poorly constructed, but also things decay over time. And, one of the really fascinating things about buildings, as you say, because they've got this organic content too, things can go wrong. And here's just a few little tasters. So this is actually Death Watch beetle in the UK. So this is timber that's completely eaten away. And, the Death Watch beetle is one of those borers that actually tick when they actually are around. So that's why they're called Death Watch beetle. Amazing how you can just crumble wood. And of course, in Australia, you've got borer, which is somewhat similar. And then, of course, you've got issues to do with the old moisture. So this is rising damp, which you can quite often see. And, sometimes you'll see it flaking paint, or indeed on brickwork, you can see the salts coming through. That's always a good example of when you see rising damp. Or in the roof space, you might well have mold. And that mold could be because of damp penetration, and quite often because, for example, the rainwater goods might be a bit distorted. It is a good example of rainwater goods that are no good at all, and you can see water there pouring straight into the structure of the property and then potentially coming on the inside of the property and showing by way of black mold on the inside of the property. Now, just treating the black mold, if you haven't treated the root cause of the problem, can be a really big issue, because it'll go on doing the same. So you have to actually not only treat the symptom, which is the black mold, but actually go to the root cause, which could well be faulty tiles or faulty metal on the roof or flashings, all those sorts of things. And then, of course, you've got the other sort of rot, the old dry rot. So this is not to do with directly moisture coming in, but lack of ventilation in the particularly underfloor or in other areas. And so dry rot can turn even the best timber to mush very quickly. So the fact of the matter is, Edwin, that when you start looking at some of these pictures, you can sort of say, look, here are some examples of the things that you see. And I reckon that a lot of people have no idea that even in the properties that they're in at the moment, they'll have some of these things now.
Well, the interesting thing, Martin, is that you're showing photos or images of the obvious.
Yep.
And it's not the obvious that we've got to be concerned with. You are concerned with it, but not as much as what you don't see. And it's what you don't see that particularly when you're given a short period of time to do your due diligence, and you're forced because of market sentiments to jump into an investment property or jump into a principal place of residence, with pretty much your eyes closed and your ears closed as well, because you're not really listening to what's going on in the area. I mean, like from your neck of the woods, you've got a lot of these terraces that they built the party walls all the way to the ground. And this is why you got a lot of rising damp, and they really didn't use a lot of damp course. So I saw them use damp course there. They had other ways or means, and they thought that, hey, the shit's not really going to climb, not really going to go up the brickwork and the render. But hey, it does, and you see a lot of that in your Dulwich Hills, in your inner west areas, where you've got a lot of terraces there still. The inner west is riddled with them, and this is where a lot of things go wrong, because you're also you're literally joined at the party wall with your neighbour, and if you're unlucky, you've got neighbours on either side, and what they do to their residents to improve it in value, to improve the lifestyle. People aren't aware that it has an effect on what happens with yours. So these are things that are very, very, like I said, they're not so obvious that people have got to really be concerned about. And this is where we delve into banter on about the building and pest reports, as you call them, the survey reports that agents provide to unknowing buyers. And they take it as gospel. It's a lightweight document that contains bugger all. And as I keep on saying over and over again, these inspectors are not going to bite the hand that feeds them, and therefore it's going to be a lightweight report, and beyond what they want to write on the report at the time. Is really not helping buyers, but buyers. I would say that 90% of buyers rely on these reports as being gospel and as being factual and true to the condition that's reported. But it's far from the truth, and I'm really getting sick and tired about with these reports. And I've noticed more and more that a lot of these reports that come from before you bid or before you buy, now they're called. That you subscribe to and people subscribe to. A lot of the building inspectors are from Jim's operation, and they say, look, one thing for sure, there's some of our inspectors are from the Jim's operation as well, but our inspectors would spend anywhere between 1.5 hours to 2 hours in the property to do conduct a building report for our clients, and whereas a lot of these other whether they're from gyms, whether they're from other companies, you'd be lucky to get them in there for more than 20 minutes to half an hour. And what are you going to see in 20 minutes and half an hour? They're just going to make excuses. One of the inspectors that we deal with a lot, one of our insiders, was telling us that one of his colleagues in the same company that he works with, he conducts on average. Now wait for it, Martin. On average, he conducts 8 to 10 building inspections on a daily basis. This was in a market that things were moving fairly quickly and there was a lot of sales. I mean, and I said to Joe, I said, Joe, what do you? What do you? How many would you do? And he said, mate, I'd be lucky to get through 3, 4 if I really rushed it. But that's starting 7 in the morning and finishing off knocking off at 6 in the afternoon, and then I've got to go home and write these things up. I mean, so it's crazy. This is the thing. So, and this is what's out there. This is what's happening. And as I said in yesterday's rant, Martin, that unfortunately, unwittingly, the previous government ushered in the reliance, or by the pressure that they were putting on agents with regards to underquoting, they ushered in and facilitated the agents providing these reports in order to keep costs down. But in actual fact, because you're not engaging your own inspector and paying them yourself the full freight, of $650, $700 per inspection, and you're only picking it up for $65, $75. Well, they're very lightweight, and this is the unfortunate thing. So it's be careful. It's what you don't see that you've got to be more careful of.
Yeah, good point. And of course, this whole question of the vendor paid for survey as part of the transaction, is pretty foggy, as we've discussed several times. Jason actually put an interesting question in. Even if you get your own report done, how can you know that they are not aligned with the REAs and therefore won't report correctly if engaged by a buyer? And I guess that is part of the question. So even if you go and get a report, a buyer's report rather than the vendor's report, you want to make quite sure that the person that you're actually getting that has the right credentials to do the work. And by the way, when I used to do structural surveys, a typical structural survey for a typical property would be somewhere between 2 hours and 4 hours, based on how big the property was. And that would include going into all of the voids that you get into, so the ceiling voids, into the roof void. If there was a basement, go into the basement, and do the internal and external. And that would include also taking a look from a ground level at the roof structure, and then look for evidence on the inside of any issues, but not necessarily climbing on the roof and those sorts of things. If somebody wanted a roof inspection as well, then you'd have to get a specialist to come in and look at the roof section because of the health and safety issues. But a 3 to 4 hour inspection of a property is not necessarily out the way if you want to get it really well done. So coming back to go on. Yeah, go
on. So going back to Jason's question, right? It's a valid question. It's a great question. Yeah, you're buying an asset, perhaps the biggest asset that you're going to be buying in your lifetime. Unless you're a politician, well, then you're going to be buying 3 or 4 in half your lifetime, and then some more with your superannuation that you get after 4 years or 6 years. I don't know, one of those things. But look, so how do you know? You're buying. There is no reason why you can't ask to be present on the day that the inspection is conducted. There is no reason why. I turn up. I turn up to the ones that I initiate, and my colleagues, my associates. I turn up to theirs as well, and talk to the inspectors, and I specifically tell them what particular areas I need them to pay closer attention to, and whether or not the agent knows them. It doesn't really matter, because it's meant to be a third-party report. So, and this is the interesting thing, that I've got several reports on file where I've engaged individuals from the same company in different parts of Sydney. I've engaged individuals from the same company, and they've given me a totally different report than the one that the vendor's report was provided from the same company. because this is why I call them. I know for a fact that they're very lightweight in that. So you can attend. After all, if you can, this is where you're hanging your hat on caveat emptor. Well, buyer beware. Well, this is the due diligence that I want to do, Mr. Mr. and Mrs. or Ms. or he, she, they, them, real estate agent. This is I want to be present on the on the day, and if your vendor has anything against this over, well, you can get nicked. Obviously, you're trying to hide something. Now you've got those rights. You've got those rights, but the thing is, a lot of people don't push for them. And it's a great question. It's a valid point. The other thing is you can also get look, inspectors. Obviously, that you don't know who's tied up with who or who provide. But at the end of the day, the agent must be neutral in that, and the vendors and the report that you get. Particularly if it was commissioned by yourself, that has a lot more weight. Should anything have been left out, and you can prove that it was purposely left out, because you can sue them. There are 3 properties that I am aware of. One has been in litigation for almost 2 years, where the building inspector colluded with the vendor, and they didn't disclose termite activity. The vendor's sold. He's sold, and he's moved. He's gone off to. The vendor's gone off to America, and this poor bastard's been in litigation with the inspector for 2 years, and the other ones are in tow, and that may be resolved by way of mediation. And they've been going on for 3 to 6 months. So so you can sue them. You can take them to task. Just because they have waivers at the bottom of every single page doesn't mean that you can't take them to task. As long as you can prove that it was purposeful, and I mean, I don't want to get too legal about it, but you can take them to task. You just got to prove that it is misleading.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard to do, isn't it? Now, you actually have got a few specific case studies, Edwin, and it's good to get into the real practical examples, because I think it brings out, and the first one relates to the building inspection story. So maybe we'll put this one up and you can chat to it.
Okay, so this is a page from this is a current property that's on the market. They're looking around the 1.6, between 1.6 and 1.7. It's lo and behold, it's a property that was bought by 2 flippers that's going to become a flopper. But they're looking between 1.6 and 1.7. They bought this property probably 2 years ago, 24 months ago. They've been getting good rentals, but unfortunately, because they bought a lemon at the time, the issues that as we said, it's organic, it's mechanical. There's been a lot of wear and tear over the last 24 months, and the issues have become more and more evident, and to the point where part of the structure of the property was starting to lean to the rear. The rear has about a 5 meter fall, at about 30-40 degree, which is rather interesting. So it's becoming somewhat destabilized, and there's a lot more cracks that have been appearing. So this is what the inspector from that company that I mentioned earlier on. This is what the inspector wrote, right? People can read that page, and if you go to the next slide, Martin, is the images of what what's in the report. So these are the 2 pages for the subfloor area. Now, to bring to light Perhaps you'd like to show the video that I took, and I was there for no more than 7 minutes because there was a lot of people there. There were something like probably 12, 13 groups of people looking at the property. There's not many listings in that area. And I was able to take a video of I actually found my way into the subfloor area, part of the subfloor area. And perhaps you'd want to show the video, and this is what as I said, this is what I got in just 5-7 minutes. Apart from inspecting all the other areas that were that gave me the inkling that hey, there's a lot more going on in the subfloor area. So I need to get under there to take a video for my purposes of my reporting to our clients.
Now let's just see, Edwin. I'm not sure whether I've got the right one, so let's just press play and tell me whether in fact this is the one that you want to see. Is this the one?
Yeah, that's one of them.
Yeah, great.
Well, I actually got under, and it was easy to get under because the doorway was through one of the bathrooms. Yeah, the makeshift bathrooms that these flippers had created in the lower area. So you can see the bearers there. They're sitting on 2 bricks. That's a major structural point there, and it's holding there from where you can see there 6 or 7 joists. Now, and part of those joists on the other video, part of the joists are also supported by a timber, what looked like 75 by 45. Yeah, it was hardwood. And in the rest of the subfloor area where in the other videos, I'm not, probably through that one. Yep, that's that one. A lot of the bearers in some of the joists are just holding, just sitting on brick on the masonry work. There's no end capping. There's nothing there. You can sort of see it. I know the videos sort of flashes through because there were a lot of people around me, and I don't necessarily like them to follow me when I do my inspections, particularly to go under the house. So this is one of the so what it appears is they added on these rooms in the downstairs area, and then they also added 2 bathrooms in the downstairs. So the other thing that the building reports don't tell you, Martin. Oh, there you go. There's the entry point into that subfloor area through this bathroom that they've created under the house.
Yeah. And, you can, I guess, Edwin, if you look at it superficially, it looks okay. But as soon as you look behind the scenes, you can see all this stuff, right?
Yeah, it's an absolute abortion.
Yeah.
But this isn't in the building report. Where is the notation in the building report to say that the bearers and quite a number of the joists there are sitting on the masonry work, the brickwork, with no end capping, no damp course in between? I mean, there's nothing to say that. This is those 2 pages that our viewers saw earlier on. They're the only thing in those photos. You can't even tell what it is. Those 2 photos there, so you can tell that this inspector had just been in and out. I'd be surprised if he spent more than 20 minutes in the property, inspecting the property from it. And it's a 2.5 levels, because it drops to the rear, and that's all it is. That's all you've got, Martin. So there you go, smokes and mirrors.
Absolutely. And the point about that is that the superficiality of a shiny bathroom, right, that will take the eye, and a lot of people will say, oh, that looks pretty good. But unless you look under the hood, unless you actually poke around a bit, then you can effectively get yourself caught. And I think it's worth reprising the Albo story here, because you actually were visited Albo's property for sale, right? This is the let's put it up like I think it's that one. Yeah, this is the property. So this is the one that Albo's got at the moment on the market his investment property. And there was a bit of an interesting story here because you had the before you buy, nothing to see, bathroom fine, etc., etc. But your story was again a little bit different, Edwin, wasn't it? When you actually looked at the property and started, looking around and just seeing what was going on.
Yeah, none of the bathrooms had the fall going back towards the floor waste. This is the downstairs powder room, you could call it, or guest bathroom. That's the laundry. Even the laundry, the fall was away from the floor waste. So if you got it's a bit of a whoopsie, the sinks overflow. Well, then you're gonna, the whole bottom area is going to be flooded. And the whole purpose of having floor waste is so that if that did happen, it all goes to it all falls towards the floor waste, and it doesn't go to the rest of the house. Look, it's a nice looking property. It's been staged very, very well. I mean, Albo must have spent at least $7,000 staging this property. It looks swanky, looks nice and shiny. But even the blue board there, that's in the party wall with the neighbour, that was bulging out. That's not in the building report. There's a couple of other points that are noted down on the building report, but there's obviously water behind the blue board because it's bulging out. There's something going on, and is it coming down from the balcony upstairs? Is it coming in between the brickwork? The two courses of brickwork there, is it from the roof? Is that water tracking down from there? Yeah, there's a lot more investigations that need to be done, but none of that is in the building report. So you've got superficial stuff. The only thing that was in the building report with regards to the bathrooms was just a loose overhead shower fixture in the main bathroom, or I can't remember whether it was the main bathroom or the ensuite. I think it was the main bathroom, but that was it. The other videos that I took of the upstairs, you'll see how there's evidence of moisture already coming all the way to the door, because the shower recess areas don't have your water stops, and over the years, because the waterproofing's obviously failed, you can see the effervescence that's coming through the grout. The floor grout is a sure sign that basically the waterproofing's failed, and there's water sitting underneath the tiles, and that water wants to escape. So, but CK looks nice and well presented, well staged. But here in bathrooms again, you don't. The fall is away. So if the sinks overflowed, that water is going to end up in the corridor, in the hallway there. The floor waste there in that bathroom, the grout was already had already come off, so water was going straight underneath the tiles. But if you look a little bit closer, where I'm pointing there to the camera towards there, you can actually see evidence that water's already been escaping through, because there's obviously there's no water stop underneath the shower spring there. And water's going through underneath those tiles, because that's where all that effervescence was coming through. And then I looked to the door jamb, and obviously the timber around of the door jamb was rotted because of the moisture that had already gone all the way to the front. So. The falls were away from the floor waste in the shower recess areas, and where it sort of ponded to that side there where I pointed, there was grout that had come off the tiles as well. So water was, it would be interesting if I had a bit more time. I would have sort of checked behind as well and see, and I would have opened up that the built-in wardrobe doors and check to see what was happening behind that built-in wardrobe, to see if the water was already affecting the skirting boards or the plasterboard in that adjoining wall between that sits inside that built-in wardrobe. So I mean, again, this was a quick quick videos, as I had very little time because the agent was late, and then I was running late to another appointment, and so was the agent. So, but yeah, again, none of this is in the builder report. It's all swanky and great, and they're expecting. The guide is 1.9. I think Albo's probably expecting a bit closer to the 2.1. But let's see what happens on the day.
Yeah, and that little example there you're looking at now, where the damp has actually started to split the board. That's quite a good sign. So quite often, if you see damp, then you'll see that you've got to get asked the question: where did it come from? Right? Where did it come from?
Yeah, so it's interesting. But again, this is what I say. These reports are very much they're lightweight reports, Martin, and this is why people have got to be very, very careful. And I would not. I buy the reports. I pay for the reports myself because I want to see whether even before we engage our inspectors. Before we engage them, when we're sure about a property that our clients really are going to bid on or are going to participate in making offers on, and we're as the group says, if it passes my sniff test and we go to the next level, well, then we're going to engage our building inspectors to do an independent report. For other reasons, then they'll crawl into every nook and cranny, and also buyers need that for insurance purposes for future and so forth. So, but I just simply buy it just because I want to compare. And the first one that you showed, I only just got that this morning. That was from an inspection on Saturday.
Mm. And Adam makes the point, well, of course, let's say $50,000 in repairs, so you make an offer of $100,000 less. The issue is, of course, you got to try and actually figure out what the repairs will actually cost. And cost of labor, cost of materials, significantly higher than previously. So quite often what I find when I talk to people who've gone through this process is they quite often end up underestimating the amount that they've got to spend. So it's a tricky situation to try and actually figure out when you're negotiating, where to drive the price to.
Yeah, but the problem is okay. To Adam's point, my quick assessment of the cost of the renovation and to all the wet areas, on average, you're going to be looking at, including the laundry and the powder room downstairs and the 2 bathrooms upstairs, on average. And I'm taking an average, is $25,000 each. That's on average, right? The bigger bathrooms will require a lot more, and that's just a simple renovation. And providing there's no issues with the wall, and depending on how long the shower recess areas have been leaking, and whether or not they've affected the studs behind the villa board. So you just that's one thing. So and with everything else there, to get that property up to speed, you're looking closer. The average person will be looking closer to $150,000 to do it all properly. That's taking into consideration all the other bits and pieces, finding out what's happening at the back. So if you're making but if you go in there and you're going to make an offer on auction, if you think you're going to get it for, let's say the guide is 1.9, right? And if you think because of that you're going to get it for 1,750,000, well, guess what? There's other people that are relying on the building report that was given by the agent, and they think the place is swanky. They think there's nothing wrong with it, and this is what I'm saying. They're going to be pushing it. That potentially could be pushing the auction to 2 million, and perhaps even closer to the 2.1. So that's the unfortunate thing. So because people are relying on these reports, they have the misconception. So they're paying 2.1, and then it's going to cost them a further 150,000 to renovate. So in actual fact, they're paying 225 for the property. Now, and I'm not including stamp duty. I'm just straight out costs. So that's the reality of it. So you're competing with people that become emotionally attached. And don't forget, I reckon Taylor Swift's going to make a bid on this. And I reckon the starting bid that Taylor Swift's going to make is probably 2.3, because her and Alba are like this.
Yeah. And then Fred Flintstone asked the general question here. I wonder how high the defect rate is with water leaks for those newly built townhouses. And generally, remarkably high. And in fact, we might go on, because there was an interesting renovation that sort of segues into this. We actually, I think, featured it previously, the $35,000 bathroom renovation, right? And there, the problem again was that the fall on the floor was completely in the wrong place.
Yeah, look, again, the fall is away from the floorways, and so this is our viewers would have seen the previous videos. So this is actually one of the tradespeople dropped a bucket of water on the floor of that bathroom, and the water was going everywhere else except the floorways. So if you show the second video, you'll actually see in the second video, Martin, you'll actually see the water coming out the door. As I said, the water was going everywhere. The tradesman was telling me the water was going everywhere else other than the floorways. So this is and there you go. Now this is you could say it's likened like if there was an overflow, if something overflowed or there was a leak, there you go, there you have it. So
yeah, and the point about that, Edwin, is that of course if you go into a property and there's carpet right next to it, you may not actually notice water going into the carpet, but it could well be rotting the carpet underneath, and if there's wood below that, it could be rotting the wood, and you wouldn't be any the wiser. And I noticed that quite a few of the surveyors, when they actually look around, they say, well, we don't lift carpets, so we only look at it on the surface. Now, when I used to survey, I used to have a little device with two prongs, and those two prongs will allow me to sort of just check for moisture levels. And I would quite often use the moisture level checker not only in the bathroom, but on the way in to see whether there was actually water, into the carpet. And it's amazed me. I reckon more than half of the bathrooms that I tested had some problem with water not flowing in the right way because of the falls weren't correct, or something was blocked, or all those sorts of things. So it's a very common problem. And going back to that post that we put up there on the comments, a lot of new builds are cutting corners left, right, and centre. They're cutting corners. Now there are rules and regulations about waterproofing and falls and all that, but I don't think that a lot of the new builds are actually up to scratch when it comes to those standards.
No, the standards for a new build is 1 in 80. So for every 80 centimeters, there's got to be a 1 centimeter or 10 millimeter drop. It's an absolute nightmare, to deal with that and to get everything else aligned. But that's on a new build, so they're trying to cope with that. They're trying to walk that back to where we were before. But you got to have a fall. You got to have some sort of a fall in a renovation. Obviously, it's a little bit different because you can get away with the old standard. The problem with this, with some of these renovations, Martin, is that I've seen is they so builds that were builds from say from 15, 20 years ago, they started to just lay fiberglass on top of the yellow tongue in the bathroom recess areas. Before that, obviously, the smarter developers used to use the copper trays, but that got too expensive. So then they started using fiberglass on the yellow tongue, and fiberglass is very brittle and it'll crack. So that was the waterproofing, so-called waterproofing membrane underneath the screed, and then they put the screed, and then the waterproofing membrane went on top of that, and that's fraught with danger. And in this $35,000 bathroom renovation, it's actually a house that's approximately 15 or 17 years old, perhaps a little bit older, call it 20 years old, and it's got the yellow tongue. And I saw the bathrooms originally when they demolished the old bathrooms, and it had the yellow tongue. And guess what? The current renovating expert told them it was okay if they just continued to do how it was before, and they just went over did exactly the same, because they're convinced that you don't even need to waterproof under the screed. And just on top of the screed, and she'll be right. And this is what we've got. So you just got to be careful. And this is what I'm saying. A lot of these renovated homes, where I can't remember his name, posted up there, you just offer less. Well, that's the unfortunate thing. If the agent's telling you that the bathrooms have just been recently renovated, a lot of people take that as gospel and say, yeah, well, it must have been done correctly. So, and lo and behold, this is what you get. So, but guess what, Martin? You can walk around with levels. You can walk around with moisture meters. You can do it's caveat emptor.
Yep.
It's up to you to either engage somebody that's going to do that, or engage a professional to stand in your in your corner to act for you from start to finish, or do it yourself.
Yep.
And don't be put off by it.
Well, it's interesting. I'll tell you a little story. When I was looking for my last property, we looked quite a few, looked over quite a wide area, but I would go and inspect the property, and I'd actually take my moisture meter with me. And the number of agents who looked absolutely horrified when I actually sort of started groveling on the floor and what are you doing? I'm just checking. But the point is, caveat emptor, you need to actually be making the decision and getting the information to be able to actually make a good decision. And that means using those tools. And you can get them on Amazon these days. They're relatively cheap and quite useful in terms of just detecting moisture in the walls, moisture around bathroom areas and things. Now, interestingly, there was a couple of questions that came in on a similar line, which let me just go back. I found it up here somewhere, about thermographic. This one from Jason was one of them. And I think somebody else asked the question a little bit higher as well. The chat's shot off the end because so many people are chatting, so I may not be able to put the earlier on. But the point is, thermographic, is that useful? Now, I actually got a thermographic image of the property that I bought at Thirroul. The reason for that was that it had a barrel curved roof and it was metal. So I wanted to know what the profile of that was in the heat. In other words, how well insulated was it? And the only way to do that is to actually get a thermographic image. So I actually think that's a really good technique. It's interesting that, Jason talks there about the imaging on electrical, but it can pick up a lot more. I absolutely agree. I'm a very keen supporter of that, particularly in Australia, where you have such extremes of temperature. So you need to understand how the inside of the property is going to behave relative to the heat outside.
Yeah, look, our inspectors, they have thermal imaging. We don't deal with inspectors that don't provide thermal imaging for various reasons, because they are doing a visual. Obviously you got to get permission from the vendor to do an invasive an invasive check. And if you don't, and that sell, which means you just got to drill a hole and send the camera in. But there are signs, and if you're really keen, you can do it. But look, our inspectors have thermal imaging cameras. The majority of our inspectors, they're being in the game. They were builders before they became building inspectors. Unlike the new tranche of inspectors that come from the IT industry and pick up an easy job because it's just tick boxes and cut and paste extracts from the NCC. So so they use thermal imaging. There are some old school ways of checking. Obviously, if thermal imaging will pick up active white ants, termites. They also use the moisture meters, a little bit more sophisticated than your two prongs, Martin,
that was a good few years ago when I had my two prongs.
Look, I've got one of those myself. So, and before that, you use the coat hanger, and you just sort of walked around, with pointing the coat hanger. That was when I was searching for water in the backyard here at the mountains.
Water divining. No, exactly.
That's it. So but obviously, again, it's up to you to pay for, to engage a building inspector that's going to do more than just kicking the tire of a car. The mechanic that just kicks the tire of the car and says, bearings are right, ball joints are okay. You need a bit more than that. So because it is some, we're not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're talking millions of dollars now. And if you're not spending, $750 to $1,000 on a building inspection report, well, you're crazy.
Yeah, very important. Now, there was just a bit of an aside here, but it's quite an important one. We had this comment saying this video will be the first to be banned under Albo's disinformation bill, not least, of course, because we're talking about Albo's property. But let me just quickly refer to the disinformation bill and just make sure that everyone is up to speed. You may not have seen the post that I did the other day, but I actually, with John Adams and with Robbie Barwick, we actually put up a show called 7 Days to Stop 1984. And the reason for that is that there's this disinformation bill that's come back. And this disinformation bill essentially is now defining serious harm as anything which could deal with electoral issues, health issues, social issues, and then, this is an important one, imminent harm to the Australian economy, including harm to public confidence in the banking system or financial markets, or other far-reaching consequences for the Australian community or elements of it. So this is a really important thing just to stress, that there is a 7-day window for people to express their views about this misinformation bill or disinformation bill. Only 7 days. So it's very much a sort of a piecemeal, well, we should probably just go through that process. But I am encouraging people to make a submission and basically share their views on whether this is a good thing or not. And of course, my view is that this is an overreach, a massive overreach, and it really is something which needs to be resisted. So just a quick aside on that. But it is important because if in fact that bill came in, then some of the shows that I make, those with Edwin probably as well, might actually be off the agenda insofar that the social media companies would be fined if they actually allowed such information to be shared on their platforms. So just worth bearing that in mind. Anyway, we'll carry on with the story of property and related issues, but I thought it was worth just working that one in, Edwin. Now, you've got a couple of other interesting stories to tell, and I guess the fascinating thing about all of the things we've been talking about here is that, properties as I said, are quite different, but you can start to see sort of patterns in what happens and what appears and what doesn't appear. And your next little story relates to an apartment development. And here's actually a slide that you shared, right? So take us through this one, Edwin.
Yeah, look, this is a high-valued apartment complex in New South Wales. I've got to be very, very careful what I share. And this is the party wall between two units. Now, this party wall, and this is sitting behind you can see part of the gyprock that was taken off, and alongside the and then you've got there was obviously a gyprock section that being removed to expose the extent there. So the interesting thing is that the concrete is meant to be a sound barrier as well as a fire barrier in between these two units. So after finding out that when they poured the concrete, the formwork obviously for whatever reason the concrete was too the wrong MPa, was whatever it was, they just didn't use those machines that vibrate to make sure that it goes all the way to the bottom. So I mean, something bad went, something wrong happened here, right? But even after that, after finding that out, they still went along and they cladded that whole section with 30mm gyprock and covered it up, only to find out later that there were issues because of noise complaints from one unit to the other. So when they exposed the wall, this is what they found out. So this is a relatively newish apartment complex for the area. It's probably one of the most expensive apartment complexes in that suburb. This is the extent of our construction, Martin. This is what we're going to be forcing people, or the government's going to be forcing people to adopt and accept as a reasonable build. Not that they'll be able to see it, of course, because it's all going to be covered up. So you put the channel over that, and then you put your plasterboard or your gyprock over that, and Bob's your uncle. Who's the wisest? And this is the unfortunate thing that happens. I mean, this is relatively mild in comparison to what stuff that I've shared in the past on our show. One of the biggest developers in Queensland. I've got a whole file on the crap that went on in the building there, and guess what? It was all covered up. Even the unions covered up some of the crap that went on, and people are living in that complex to date with all sorts of issues. A lot of our followers have shared on X or on Twitter. They've tagged us on some of the developments in and around Wollongong and other parts of Sydney as well, where things have just gone been covered up, and they're told not to say anything, and the buildings are now occupied, and it's just a catastrophe waiting to happen. There's all sorts of things that go on, and this is what I say: you've got to be more careful as to what you don't see than what you see, and unfortunately, a lot of the reports won't pick it up, and even if you do conduct one that you commission, if your reporter conducts one that you commission, well, even then you're still unless they're switched on, you're really not going to get the best outcome. So this is what I say to people: is take your time, make the appointments outside of the open house inspections in order to go through the property thoroughly. You've even got simple things such as properties that get advertised with SMEG and Miele appliances and all this stuff, and the shit doesn't even work. once you bought the property, and then when you do your final inspection before you occupy the property, you go and turn. That's when a lot of people go and turn the stoves on, and go and see if things are, the electrical stuff's working, and it's not working, and they try to make a claim. No, it's too late. You bought the property. You bought the property as is. You should have checked that out before you made the offer and before you exchanged contracts, and made that a condition of your offer on the day of the auction, or whether it was private treaty or post auction, whatever. That's the important. A lot of people think that they can make those claims, post the signing of the contract and post the cooling off period. You can't. That's it. It's you bought it. You can only make a claim if an agent said something that, and you got it in writing, which I always say, keep the paraphernalia that they give you. Document the conversations that you have with the agent. Like in one case where the agent said, 150% sure that that there's no asbestos in this house. I mean, 3 bathrooms are riddled with asbestos. Who pays for that? Who pays for that now when you're doing a demolition of a bathroom, and then you have to remove asbestos? The average cost in Sydney, the average cost of a demolition, just a simple demolition of a bathroom, is $2,500. That's just to get somebody to go in there and demolish the bathroom, take all the shit away, and that way you can start with basically clean skin. Now that's just on average, and that's providing that the villa board or the fibro that's there isn't contaminated with asbestos. So then if it does contain asbestos, well, you can add another $3,000 to that to the tag. But and so when you add it all up, that house had 2 upstairs, downstairs, powder room downstairs, 3 bathrooms. So there's $9,000. So I told the owner, you've got it in writing. Make a claim against the agent.
Yeah, very good. Well, know your rights, of course, is part of the story here, and also be sensitive and aware of some of the issues that you might find, so that you can take the appropriate course of action. Unfortunately, quite often I find when I chat to people on the one-on-one scenario, once they bought a property, well, did you get a survey? No. Did you rely on what the vendor agent said? Well, yes. Okay, well, then you look at what they said, and of course it was very vague and there was nothing there, and then it's hard to sort of prove a point. So I guess somebody actually asked in the chat, Edwin, if you're looking at multiple properties, well, how often do you do a survey? Surely you don't want to sort of do a survey on lots and lots of properties, and that's a problem.
But that's a problem. That's what the previous government tried to solve, is the fact that, but that was more in relation to underquoting, because people were spending a lot of money in building and pest reports, and they were also spending money in getting contracts to be looked at by conveyancers or solicitors. They were paying on average combined. By just looking at the contract, let's say in a building report, they were paying on average $1,000. And every time that they'd liked the property and they wanted to participate, that they thought that was within their reach, it flew 15-20% above the guide. People were getting pissed off, and this is all to do with the underquote. And this is when the agents started bringing in, and this is where that company before you bid became very, very popular, because then it costs individuals. It only costs them, as I said, on average $75 for a report. You pay the balance of the $600 or $650 if you are the successful bidder. If you are the successful purchaser, you pay the balance to the individual that conducted that report, or through the company. That's how it works. So that report is could be shared amongst 2 people, could be shared amongst 10 people, and in some cases they make more money. Other cases they don't make any, because the property doesn't get sold, and those parties that obtain those reports don't even buy the property. But more than likely, the property is being sold. They make a good coin out of it. But yeah, how often do you do it? Look, the unfortunate thing is, for many people, is that they're not as savvy. Look, this is where you need if you're not in the Sydney region, where you can call us, because we will do a preliminary inspection. We will do what we call a one-off inspection, and help you go through the inspection, give you a summary of what we believe the property is worth, and also attend the auction or help you to negotiate on that property. There is a one-off. I'm the only one that does it in our group, because the others are just they're not akin to it. But I don't mind doing that for our followers and our viewers, which is costs a lot less than what we call the full service buyer's agency fee. And yeah, it is helpful, but it's got to be within the Sydney region. And if you can't get a hold of me, if my fees are too high, or whatever, grab a friend that knows something. Reach out to Martin, and I'm sure he can read out his moisture meter reader.
Or go on Amazon and get one. No, very good, Edwin. So there's another interesting image I want you to put up. I'll put up in a second, and this relates to the next case, which was about termite activity. So I'm going to put the slide up, Edwin, and what I'm going to do is let you talk about this. I've actually got somebody at my front door which I need to go and deal with. So I'm going to put the slide up so you can see that. And if you'd just like to explain a little bit about this one, I'll be back in just a second.
Yeah, I think Martin's gone to the front door. I think the police, somebody's dobbed him in, and he's going to get taken away. So what this is a bearer. It was 100 by once upon a time. It was a hardwood bearer, 100 by 100 millimeters by 100 millimeters, and white ants or termites have got to it. And this is a property where the agent said, no termites. There was some activity, but the vendor or the owner, the property owner, dealt with it. But lo and behold, this is what was exposed a few months post the purchase of the property. So you're going to get in a lot of homes. Where we've shown in previous Monday evening rants, we showed a property in the northwest region where it actually sold, successfully sold for 1.56. It was a battle axe property, and we showed some slides of it was termite affected as well, and the effects, the termites were obviously living in between the walls of the wet areas, the laundry, the main bathroom, and the ensuite. They got renovated quickly. It was a dodgy renovation at best, but it looked nice. It looked shiny. It looked attractive and appealing to the eye to many first-time buyers that are looking at we're looking at buying in that area, and that's that termite effective framework that we showed in a previous podcast. I think it was 3 or 4 podcasts ago. Shot Monday evening rants, and that property got sold, Martin. So as I was saying to our viewers, this used to be a bearer, and once upon a time, 100 by 100. And this is where the selling agent said to the purchaser, yeah, there was there was some activity before, but it's all been dealt with. The owner dealt with it. I don't know whether you can show the video of the actual the actual space or the studio.
Is
you
that,
got that?
I'm not sure whether I've got that one. Let's have a look. Work out which one that is.
It's okay. Anyway, the little buggers, don't worry about it. The little buggers ended up chewing through just about every second stud in that room as well. It was a big room, big family room area.
Yeah, I think I'm just want to make sure I've got the right one. Is this the right one? That one?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, great.
So that's after the agent said, no, yeah, it was every second stud along those walls were chewed up. These little bastards, they're engineers, these termites. They're absolute engineers. It was a wonder how the hell the roof was holding up, and they knew how far to eat into those studs, and how high to go before they moved on to the next one. And every other second or third one, I think every other third one was left alone. It was just being, it wasn't just being held up by the gyprock, but it was just the roof was held up by toothpicks because that's all they left. But I'll tell you, Martin, Australian termites, they've got engineering degrees.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was amazed because termites weren't really a thing in the UK. We have bees that drill in through the walls and will actually basically tunnel in behind and then sort of live there. But we don't have termites. But I was amazed at the damage that termites could do in such a quick area. And quite often, of course, they start outside and sort of work their way in. But as you say, they're engineers, aren't they? They've got little hats on.
But see, this is the thing. Our termites are engineers, but what's scarier? Our termites or bees with Kango hammers and to break through your bloody double brick walls there in your terraces in the UK. I mean, I prefer the termites personally.
Yeah, I know. Masonry bees they're called, and they're quite a little trick. Well, we're coming towards the end of the show, Edwin. There was one interesting question which came in earlier on, which was simply this: is there one piece of legislation that you think should be changed to make the situation better than it currently is? And that's an interesting question, isn't it? Because the government has tried a few times to sort of make changes, but every time they make a change, they seem to me to sort of get themselves into deeper water.
Yeah, and as I've said before, they bring out new legislation, they bring out new governance or guidelines or regulations, whatever you want to call them, and agents will find six ways to Sunday to circumvent those guidelines, the regulations, or the legislation, and a section of the legislation. And that's the unfortunate thing, where the only way that we're going to fix this, not the only way, but one of the ways that we could move towards closer to fixing this is if the actual policing and governance over the new legislation that comes in is enforced by higher penalties and higher fines. And quite frankly, it's got to be 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out. It doesn't take. It's not rocket science to work out the aspect of underquoting. But unfortunately, as I keep on saying over and over again, they've got ways and they've come up with forms to hoodwink vendors into signing off on and accepting. Basically accepting the agent to underquote. They think they're doing the right thing because they come in the guise of fair trading approved forms that you need to sign, and they also, and that's in the most part, but in some of it, I dare say it's around 3 in 10 vendors would actually, perhaps even more, would actually collude up front with the agent to blatantly underquote. And this is where most of this comes from. Legislation around 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 better governance in terms of the contract. I've said for almost 3 decades now, I've been talking about and questioning why are not the contracts of sale not accompanied by a current valuation, one provided by an independent an individual, and also that they should have. I know that George bangs on about from ITC, bangs on about a building report, but that can still be somewhat subjective because we've got this now. But I think it comes back to the rod that drives out correction. That drives out not correction, that drives out rebellion. And because if there's no real policing, and if that stick doesn't come down hard, well, they're going to say, so what? And it's only a percentage of the commission. On average now at one point, if you do the math, if the average dwelling in New South Wales, in Sydney, is the average house is $1.5 million, right? The average commission currently is 1.5. Do the math. What's 1.5 or 1.5 million? That's what $15,000. Is that correct? No, it's more than that. That's 15 and 5. That's and 7. That's 22,500. Right. So that's 22,500. Correct me if I'm wrong, Martin, but I think it's 22,500. That's the average commission that agents. Now, from that, when they're found to contravene the regulations, the fines that you see on the Fair Trading portal generally go from 1,500 to 2,500. It means nothing.
Yep.
It means nothing to the repeat offender.
Somebody said to me the other day, when it's the cost of doing business. And that's the scary part of it, right? Because effectively there's such a mismatch between the commission that can be earned with a transaction versus the occasional. They don't often get caught, but if they do get caught, those fines are so small that it really doesn't matter, and that's the problem. So, to my mind, if you wanted to change the regulatory framework, we want better compliance of the rules, because there are rules that are actually out there, and a better ability to be able to actually make penalties hurt sufficiently so that people think twice about doing it. Because at the moment, a lot of people are just saying, cost of doing business, and on they go.
Yeah, it's crazy. One of the things that, look, if you are going to rely on these reports that agents provide, one thing that hopefully doesn't occur to our followers and our viewers is you don't forget to get that report assigned to you personally. Don't leave a blank. If you're the successful bidder at the auction, and you're the successful buyer of the property, and you rely on that report, and you want to then, if you find some issues that you believe were not reported on that should have been, and if you haven't at the beginning got that report assigned to you, it's a hard. That's a first hurdle that you have to navigate through. Because a lot of people don't do that, and it's housekeeping. You need to do that, apart from asking the agent the questions, asking the agent about material fact. And the other thing, I guess, going back to that the question there, one of the things that material fact, I can't remember what section of the Act it sits in, but it's the definition of material fact has to be broadened, has to be broader than what it is at the moment. At the moment, it's very loose, and it's not specific, not specific enough to hold, to give buyers a lot more weight to pursue the real estate agent personally, and the agency as well. But you can still take notes, as I said, contemporaneous notes, diarize what they said, what they told you, and let's face it, even when agents make put it in writing, some of them put it in the ad that great investment opportunity, or great investment potential, or future growth, all these alluding to financial benefit. But we don't. I'd be surprised if there are real estate agents out there that hold AFSL licenses.
Yeah, good point, Edwin. Well, we're coming to the end of the show, but there's one little section we haven't got to yet, which we'll get towards the end. Before we do that, Jason, thank you very much for the super chat and your question. Do you have an opinion as to whether a person is better off buying something old that appears to be better versus something new, given some defects appear in the new builds? I've said for some time that I wouldn't go near a new build, particularly if it was in the high-rise or mid-rise construction area. I've seen too many bad examples of new. Now, there are some new properties. So the property I bought when I was down in Thirlway was relatively new, and that had been built by a builder for himself. So the quality of that construction was way better than average, but generally no. And Edwin, before I throw that across to you, Jason also made this question. Have you seen a case where termites have destroyed a property and the council issued the owner with a restoration order back to heritage rather than start again? Absolutely. In the UK, we have a thing called preservation orders. Preservation orders are like a noose around your neck, because it means you can't actually do a lot of stuff, and you have to actually take it back to what it was like, even if it costs way more. And I've seen quite a few examples of that around the place, where the council, says, no, it needs to go back to how it was rather than actually going forward. Edwin, across to you.
No, I haven't had a case like that. I haven't come across one. I know of cases where owners have torched the properties in order to get around those orders. Usually turn them into development sites. But again, I also know a case where the developer got busted, and then they put them through the ringer, made an example of them. No, but in terms of residential property, no. And obviously we make sure and we check. And it's a lot easier now than what it was before to check to see if there's any type of preservation or heritage orders or covenant over properties. The older properties, it'll be interesting to see if some of the suburbs get to push for the old fire roads to come on as heritage listed, as they've been trying so hard to do. From that were built in the 50s and 60s in some areas, but no, it's and a lot of these older properties as well, the ones that I bought for my own family, in one particular property that we were renovating, was built in the early 40s. We broke two bloody drill bits in trying to drill through one of the bearers underneath the bathroom, because we sort of extended it a little bit, so we had to add another piece to it and try to join it, and we broke two drill bits. Some of the hardwoods over the years just turns into fossilizes and turns into concrete.
Well, I had an 1880s property in Cremorne in Sydney, and that was remarkably structurally sound, even 100 years later or whatever it was, because it was well built originally with timber that was hardwood timber, but it got harder and harder, and it was impossible to do anything with. Now, as we come to the end of the show, Edwin, we've got one more little section just to go through, because this is quite amusing, but also quite important too. And this is relating to a particular post that you did here. Chris Mims announced that we've unlocked more land to build 11,000 homes across New South Wales. And today we're announcing 10 more government-owned sites. And you've got some opinions.
Oh, well, look, the thing is, we're talking about something that's going to happen, or if again, my old saying goes, if you start putting shovel to the ground today or tomorrow, I don't think anybody's going to be working right now. But if you're going to start putting shovel to the ground, nothing's going to happen for at least 3 to 4 years. And in those 3 to 4 years, if you extrapolate the cost of construction, the cost of materials, and the way the government operates, and contractors that work, they get these government contracts. And from previous posts that we've had on social media and on the news and everything else, where we know that the cost for the government to build anything, averages out to about 1.2 million. So, hey, I made him an offer. I'm a licensed buyer's agent. I'm happy to act on behalf of the New South Wales people, and because it is our taxpayers, the taxpayers' money, and I'm happy to go out there and broker a deal and buy the 1,100 apartments, because that's all they're going to be. Buy the 1,100 apartments, and people can move in, within 6 weeks of purchasing them, within the before Christmas. There's a political campaign, just waiting to happen. So, and I'm happy to broker the deal. I won't take a flat fee. I won't take sort of taking a flat fee, but I won't take a commission on the deal, because I want to help people out. I'm happy to do it for Dusty and I are happy to broker this deal, because we reckon we can get them for on average now around the 700,000, as opposed to paying 1.2 million, and we can buy them now, and people can move in within 2 months, and all we ask for is a steak lunch and tequila, maybe a cigar for myself. Dusty doesn't smoke, that's all, mate. I'm happy to do it. I've put it out there, and I've told Chris to DM me, and happy to get the ball rolling.
Yes, that's right. When you do the math, you think, hang on a moment, how much are you spending and what you're getting? And look, just to tie the ribbon on this conversation, Tolawong. Tell me about Tolawong.
Yeah, well, Tolawong is where, if you recall, a couple of weeks ago, a week and a half ago, this is where the Premier opened up this new development and said, this is the future. This is where people want to go, and this is what we're going to build, and this is where people want to live. I mean, do people actually know where Tolawong Village, where it sits? It sits in the middle of Box Hill, Kellyville, and Marsden Park, or Schofield, right? It's in a flood zone. There used to be 1 in 50 at one stage, and you've got high-rise developments there, and no doubt they would have dug at least 2 basements. So there's going to be issues with this development. So you made a big song and dance. But more to the point, Martin, you got to ask yourself, how much are you willing to pay, right? How much? I mean, there was this big song and dance about releasing the cost of living pressures and this and that, blah blah blah. Even SWAT says, Tolawong's a floodplain. So then, if you look at let's look at the prices, Martin, for what you're paying for, what you're actually paying for to live in Tolawong, in a floodplain zone where it's been, where they've made a big song and dance. So a 1-bedroom apartment goes for, on average, $605,000 for a 1-bedroom, 1 bathroom, 1 car space. A 2-bedroom, $775,000, and a 3-bedroom, $1,095,000. How do you like them apples? That's what I'm saying, Martin. Give me that, appoint me as a buyer's agent, and I will have 1,100 apartments around Parramatta, closer to Sydney, where there's already infrastructure, where we've already got hospitals, where we've already got, people can commute into the city and move around a lot better. And I can buy them for 700. All I'm asking for is a steak lunch and tequila and a Cuban cigar.
It's a remarkable story. And look, the fact of the matter is, as we've said several times, people are being forced out into these nether regions of Sydney and other places too. No facilities, no infrastructure, a million miles from anywhere, frankly. And they're being forced to pay stupid amounts of money to live there. This is bad policy. It is bad government policy. And, some of the things we've been saying tonight, I think, underscores that. And then, of course, the fact of the matter is that you buy some of these new places and they're poorly built and they go wrong very quickly. And you can end up with the bad building syndrome and all that sort of stuff as well. So this is, just another shameful story, isn't it, unfortunately? Well, Edwin, we've come to the end of the show. Thank you very much for sharing your videos and thoughts this evening. I hope people found this interesting. I think the moral of the story is it is worth taking the time and the effort to make sure that you know what it is you're going to buy if you're going to buy property. And bear in mind that, as we showed earlier on, whether you're looking at the roof or the walls or the floors or the subfloors or the basements or foundations, there are things that can go wrong. And the truth of the matter is that those things can make a huge difference to the long-term value of the property. So it is worth taking the time to do your due diligence. And don't trust what the agent tells you about the the Mickey Mouse documents that they have as part of the package, which, of course, is a marketing document rather than actually anything else. So anyway, Edwin, any last thoughts from you?
No, look, I just, look, our followers and our viewers have just got to have it etched in their minds, which I'm sure they do, is caveat emptor. You're buying a big asset. You need to get, more than the selling agent's opinion. You need to get professional advice in order to walk in as open-eyed as possible. It's hard enough. It's hard enough to make an assessment, even for. I mean, we tried as much as we can within reason, short of the vendors allowing, as I said, allowing us to or our inspectors to do intrusive checks of things, or to even take samples of the billboard or the fibro in the wet area, so as we can know. But there's a lot of things that you can do beforehand. One of the things that just comes to mind, Martin, quickly, is insulation is a big thing as well. You've got a lot of cellulose fibre. It looks like the Mr. Fluffy sort of stuff. Obviously, the majority of properties that had the Mr. Fluffy, which is riddled with asbestos, that they're being dealt with. They're on the register. But you've also got this other stuff that they call cellulose fibre, which is insulation that's made up of broken up old newspapers and waste. But that's, in my opinion, is very carcinogenic, and it's can be very harmful to live in. You can imagine just breathing that stuff as it comes through the light fixtures, the crevices in your cornices, when rodents get up there, and then they make holes in the roof spaces, or you've got ducted air conditioning, any intrusion through the gyprock of the ceiling into the cavity area, you're going to get that fine dust coming through. Now that's laced with fire retardants, and that's also laced with insecticides to deal with pests and so forth, roaches and the like. So, but you're breathing that stuff in. So there's things that you should be checking. and you should be asking questions about, because it is very costly to get rid of asbestos. It's very costly to get rid of this old insulation that you just need to vacuum it away. You've got to vacuum the ceilings out. There's a lot of things, and unfortunately, these are things that people aren't looking out for before they buy. So get the professional advice. Especially if your heart is set on buying the property, but for God's sake, don't rely on that before you bid, before you buy a piece of crap. You need to get some solid advice and be there with the inspector. Meet the inspector at the house. There's nothing in the regulations, nothing in the legislation, nothing to stop you from being there. If you're going to buy a BYD, or a Tesla or any other EV or a car in general, you take it for a test run. So this is you've got a window of 2 hours to more or less take the property for a test run as well. And be very wary of your neighborhood as well, because your neighborhood will also have telltale signs of what may or could be happening to your property as well. Don't just be single-eyed and focus on that shiny new bathroom area, that shiny new 40 mil granite bench top, or the smeg cooktop or whatever. Yeah, so that's, in short, Martin, that's but look, I'm happy to know the fact that most of our viewers and our followers that watch the shows are already well versed, and it's just a message that they need to share with their relatives and friends.
Yeah, well, we'll keep preaching the gospel, because it makes a huge difference. You end up buying better property, and you end up therefore financially better off, and less worry and all those good things. And unfortunately, I still hear a lot of stories of people who've made bad decisions. And I often talk about the punctiliar nature of those decisions. In other words, it's a point in time decision I buy, but the consequences are there forever, or for years and years and years. So, the decisions you take today will haunt you in the future. So it is worth taking time to make the decisions well. Edwin, thanks very much. Look forward to our next rant next Monday. And for those who haven't caught up with Edwin before, he does come on my show every Monday. We have a good chin wag about what's going on in the property market and politics and a few other things as well. So always check those shows out. And I'll say, Edwin, thank you very much. I'm going to take you offline, and I'm going to close the show. Thanks. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed that. I always enjoy talking about bad properties, and particularly structural faults, because I spent a good time in my career climbing through holes and kicking them around. Anyway, thank you for spending some time with us this evening. Hope you found that useful. Just to say that next week, Damien Classen will be on, and we'll be exploring the latest in the markets. Of course, the markets have been up and down over the last little while, so that'll be an interesting conversation. So mark your diaries and join us for that. The doggies are still... There we go, still there. Pretty much have not moved. They didn't even bark when the front door went, so that was quite funny. They normally do, but they didn't this time, so they must have been sound asleep. So I guess it's time for their next walk. Anyway, that's the show. Thank you very much for spending some time with us evening. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you very much for all your comments and questions. Please like, subscribe, share this show. And a final reminder, if you haven't made a submission regarding the misinformation bill, please do so in the next few days. It's going to be a very important campaign. This is Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Signing off. We'll see you next time. Cheerio.